So we can start. Hello, here is Peter Churget, and this is the Hard Hearts and Clear Minds. Today I have a guest, Peter, who's already participated in Power Awakening podcast, which is related to all the topics related to the power of humans, how we lose, how we get this power back. And luckily, Peter is also working with companies, so we will talk about burnout and a lot more. But before we get into this topic, please introduce yourself for those who's listening or watching.
Yeah, hello, my name is Peter Valderhaug. I live in Oslo, Norway, and I work internationally with leadership development, and I train companies in communication, and more specifically unconscious communication patterns that make change more difficult.
I think this is a best fit for the burnout, because how I want to start this topic is burnout is not only starts at work, it starts at home too. So they can increase the likelihood of the burnout or just get there slowly. Doesn't matter which one is harder, the private life or the work life. If both, it will pull down people quite quickly. What do you think? What employers can do with this topic?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and I think it's more relevant than ever right now, because there are so many different sources of information. So there's so much information overload in people's minds, and so burnout is, I look at it as a symptom of a deeper issue. And when that deep issue has gone too far, then we begin to feel that effects of the burnout. And the deeper issue, in most cases, I'm going to try to generalize a little bit. It's when you experience a gap between what you actually experience and what you want to experience. So, for example, if you have a worker at your job, in your organization, that comes home and has a story about in his mind about, please let me relax, I'm tired after work, I don't know how to feel fulfilled right now. That's the story, and the experience is more stress at home or loneliness, because absence of validation, absence of peace, and just more chaos. And then he's bringing a new story back with him to work. And that story might go something like, oh, another 2 weeks at work, this is going to be stressful, I didn't really get to recharge my batteries when I was home. So that story becomes the gap at work, because work demands you to show up every day, and so there's a gap again. And those gaps over time will, imagine like a game of tennis, and your energy is the ball in between, So the different two gaps of experiences, your internal story and what you're actually experiencing in the whole world, is playing tennis with your energy. It goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And eventually, someone's going to miss, and the ball's going to go out. And the person is going to feel completely out of energy. And this is what happens. So we have to, as managers and leaders, we got to be aware of the stories that our employees tell themselves. Because if we do a new initiative at work, or if we expect work to go in the specific tempo or something, then the stories of our employees' minds, that doesn't change just because we've initiated change at work. So we need to learn the stories that will help us with the burnout.
It's interesting that what employers cannot really do or don't do at all is getting information about how the person actually feels at home. Because if you don't know if this person can recharge, or he's lonely, what's going on, he's dealing with alcohol maybe, then gets back to work, the work is hard, and then they get home, they just drink alcohol or watch TV, whatever numbing method they use. The employer not aware of this. So the employer basically, let's say, suffering when the employee say, I have a burnout, goodbye,
Yeah.
for 1-2 years or 3. I don't know how much they can get in Norway, how much free time out of work when they say, I have the burnout. But the companies suffer because the experience disappears, the person in a maybe an important role is disappearing, and then find out what you should do. So the preventive work, what I used to tell to people, it's the same for companies. They should do preventive work, support these people to manage their life. Because at the moment, what they do, they give gym membership tickets and medical examination appointments, kind of things.
Yeah, and some even has health insurance that gives you 7 or 8 hours with a psychologist after you've become sick.
That's not a strong prevention program, unfortunately.
A lot of leaders need to understand that humans are 24-hour people. Like, we are the person we are at home, we are the person that we are when we commute to work, we are the person that we are when we are at work, at home, at night. And all of these different aspects will affect the performance we are able to bring to work. So if something doesn't work at home, then we will not work at work. If the commute is too long or the train is stopping, because we have a problem with trains in this country. Like, the trains always stop. They're never on time. And I know people who has to travel almost an hour each direction to work. And on the days where the trains are delayed and they spend 2.5 hours just to get to work, and then they're at work and they feel like they could have just been at home that day because they could have worked remote, and then they spend 2.5 hours getting home. That's the entire day. And when that happens over time, the effort it takes to actually get to work limits the performance they're able to do both at home and at work. So they never get a break. And leaders need to understand. Like, so managers don't understand this, but leaders, they do understand this. Because leaders, they are more concerned about creating an environment that's stimulating and creating growth for the employee. Whereas managers, they just want to make sure that the job is being done, which is an old way of thinking. We can't do that anymore, unless you have a specific type of job that you can not think about when you're not there. But almost like 99% of all jobs now you can think of, or you can be accessible to that job even when you're home. So work is not, I wake up, I go to the factory, the bell rings, I go home, and I don't think about work until the next day. If you have that structure, you can be a manager, but we don't. You need to be a leader and create an environment that is sustainable for your employees. You're smiling. What are you thinking about, Peter?
Because I was a team leader on the field with team members.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned how to lead sufficiently. But now I'm a health and safety specialist at offshore. So now, as a leader, I live together with them on the boat, basically. And they go out to work, they come back. So the stimulating environment, what I created, is basically I talk about mental health, emotional topics, relation topics that I know they have. I don't ask them, I just speak up. So I lead by example, because I want them to hear about topics that men don't talk, because I hear, of course, many of them just talk about general, shallow topics, like every day, about this, about that topic. That's what I did, that's what I did, okay. But what is missing usually is the emotional part, how I recharge emotionally, physically, how I maintain my physical body, that I can go out to work, how I can rest what lifestyle I do. So I talk about all this, and I just created a Power Awakening training program, which means I'm in the gym every day.
Yeah.
I do the fight conditioning. There's a punch bag, and I ordered some accessories to fight because people, men, I work with 99% of men. There's one woman on the entire vessel. So what men need is basically physical stimulation, feel the power, feel good. So I do every day because this is my cafe. So the environment I providing at the moment, it's very open, and I also invite them to get into their best shape of life. And I tell them, you can just do, the high intensity training. I can do it with you. I also need. We can do the heavy weight lifting to a certain level because I want to keep them safe, just to learn techniques, and do fight conditioning, just to use my hand and legs, how to protect myself and loved ones. So basically they go home as a better person because I influence them with all these healthy topics. So they can decide to either go to psychologist, therapist, mentor, teacher, to grow as an individual, emotionally and spiritually, psychologically. And I give them some stimulation with the sport to feel like, oh, actually it feels good. So maybe they at home go running, playing tennis, or gym, or fight club, because this is how I feel that these guys are getting better and stronger. They will not go for sick leave because I work with them, live with them, to help them to get into a healthier rhythm.
Yeah.
And many of them have to speak about lots of topics. Once they hear that I speak, they speak too. They come into my office saying like, do you have 5 minutes? Usually it's half an hour, 1 hour. I'm very grateful for these conversations. So I really loved that you separated the managers who have like an overview of the project, get the job done.
Yeah.
Great. But then the leaders have a crucial role in the entire project, because we talk about the leaders in the office who basically managing all the workforce at the field. So these leaders, how they influence all the people, what they say about certain topics, how they live, they see each other.
Yeah.
On the SOVs, on the offshore operation. And then they have also team leaders. They are all the time with the guys. What this leader is doing. This leader is watching them as they work unsafe, or this leader is talking about topics that are inspiring and helping people to feel better. So there's, from operational perspective, as I see, based on your information, leaders. This is where managers can focus, how to have leaders who's influencing everybody positively, avoiding burnout and feeling good. Because then actually employees can feel good, employers can lean back and say, okay, I managed to have good leaders on site. I should not worry about absence of my special team. What do you think?
I think that leadership is a skill, and I'm in a lot of especially blue collar fields like physical manual labor work, like offshore work, and it's where you're using you. Unfortunately, in a lot of companies, if you're a good worker and you do your job well, then you might get promoted to be a leader. And that way of thinking creates managers, because then you will have a person who is really good at doing the job and who has not necessarily developed the communication skills necessary in order to lead other people. So they see how the job is being done and they know how they would have done the job. So they're just going to sit back and watch the other people work and think that if they're not doing it the same way that I did, then something is wrong, which could create micromanagement. And if the workers experience micromanagement and the absence of autonomy. Like I'm not able to do the work the way I find, the way I honestly feel like this is the right way to do it, then that's going to also potentially increase burnout because they're going to feel restricted. So we need, whenever somebody is being promoted to a managerial position, train them in communication, train them in how to speak with people and how to listen, and train them in like a couple of fundamental ways of just thinking differently. For example, self-fulfilling prophecies. If you are a new leader and you feel like you cannot trust your employees, you're going to give off that vibe of not trusting your employees. And then your employee is going to feel not trusted, even though you're saying all the right things. But if you have that idea of you can't trust them, you're going to unconsciously affect them negatively. The other way is, like there's an old saying that I'm not exactly sure what it is in English, but it's like in Norwegian it's "på seg selv kjenner man ingen andre," which means that you don't know anyone else from your own perspective. Like when you look at things the way you would have done, that's right for you, but it could be different from other people. So when somebody is doing the job really, really well, being promoted to a managerial position, they're unconsciously going to think this is the right way of doing things. And they're looking at everybody else and interpreting what everybody else is doing through their own perception. And that also limits growth. Because if you are interpreting everybody with your own perception, you're going to also unconsciously limit their growth. Because you would be more blind to different solutions, more blind to solutions that are outside your own perceptive scope.
Mm-hmm.
So train people in those two things. Learning how to listen from other people's perspective and learning how to communicate with them.
And since we both do teaching and training, mentoring in our life, we know that this is not like, okay, having a 1 hour session about communication, because people have to face to their fears about the communication. They have to build confidence, and they have to be followed up about the experience they have, the struggles they have. So what do you think, how much is in time perspective that employers should invest in this? My previous guest, Eirik, he mentioned at least once a week, because it's a process. And then we will see how the process goes.
Yeah.
Plus, experience in the communication within a team, because there is one thing, coaching one person, but having a team checking in together and see who talks about what kind of issues, what can we do with these issues. So it's like a brainstorming exercise also, plus speaking up. So there's a lot of things that can go on, but what I see is, what is my experience, people think that one training, one online training, one like click training will be sufficient, or one time when we have a check-in is sufficient, or just speaking with one manager is sufficient, but they don't see the process building up someone's communication skills, team leading skills, because exactly that's what happens. A person do a great job or have enough years of experience, okay, you will be the leader of the next campaign. But this person needs all the support, not just technically, all the communication topics. How I deal with difficult situations, how I engage someone who's on the project, just signed a contract with not the best hourly rate, to motivate them to please be my team member and just give your best. How can I manage this? So what do you think, how companies should invest into this?
Better trainings. Physical in-person trainings with competent people who can train them in how to think and how to talk instead of just multiple choice questions about the theory. Because I do a training program that lasts a year where I teach leaders how to develop a coaching leadership role, where it's 4 hours a week for 28 weeks, and it's spread out. And I think if you do, like, the best way to train new managers or train new leaders is to, there isn't a best way. The way I would have done it is to do like a 2-day full training seminar, in-person physical training, where I teach them communication skills, and I teach them how to calibrate a room, and I teach them about how different mindsets work together, and how people create their own mindsets and how they create their own truths. And then they have 14 days without training, with maybe a short online check-in and specific areas to explore. And then they have to think differently and act differently, behave differently with their employees, get feedback and trust the process. And then we have a new sit down, full day, share, explore, do a group coaching sessions with all the leaders. Be like, I learned this, I did that, I thought this was my assumption, this was the result. And then we have like an in-person feedback session. Then we do one more day, full day of training. We do the same thing again. And then we do a digital virtual sit down a month later. And then one more virtual sit down 1 month after that. And we increase the period of feedback, because they are slowly supposed to learn faster and faster and have less and less need for feedback, because they're building a new identity. This is the problem when you promote the people who has seniority and just been there for a long time, because they've developed a worker identity. They haven't developed any type of leadership identity. And we need to build a leadership identity. And a lot of leadership training programs, they don't do that. They just teach some skills. And if you are putting new skills into an old identity, that's not going to work. You need to build the identity first. And so when we train leaders into assuming the leadership identity, then you have people who can actually lead.
It's interesting because the environment that I've seen in the last, I've worked already 20 years approximately, and in these environments, people just self-develop in a way. They just try to figure out, and then just run that way.
Yeah, you can do that. It takes longer, but you can.
Yeah.
And then we see in the numbers that people are burned out and people struggling with mental health, so maybe they shouldn't train themselves.
Yeah. I definitely see the potential, very big potential, in having these separate sessions, like build up, organized sessions that you said. Because otherwise we just let people to deal with, and if they deal with a family at home, they deal with depression at home, and if they have to deal with all kinds of technicians, for example, on the field that are not listening, not following rules, they're not really good, they just get more struggle in their life, and maybe they don't want really have more struggle in their life. So having these coaching sessions, this mentoring session, become a leader, it also helps them to be better, basically.
Yeah.
So you basically talking about communication, openness, and then with the group sessions, checking in with each other, listening to each other. Because once you have these skills, you can help a lot at the field where you work, and it is a big help in private life too.
But what you do is also very important, because you do a different thing. You go first. You are the leader that creates room. You create space for people to open up. And a lot of people, and especially in classical men professions, they don't do that. They don't create space. And they have leaders who aren't brave enough to actually go first. So you're going first, you're doing the work and you're showing up, and you are the example that other people can strive to be, which is very, very important. And so whoever your employer is, they're lucky to have you, because you're the kind of person that do the work, and it's rare.
And I'm only one, so that's why we are talking now,
Yeah.
because Peter is available too, and with a structured manner, because what we need is structure in this. Because once the company decide to sign up people, their leaders, to a program, basically you sign up for keeping the expertise within the company, having more happy people at your company. Plus these people will be not just happy at work, because they can manage things and they get really useful trainings, but they can get back home as a better person. And imagine that you feel good after going home from work.
Yeah.
I just let people to imagine. And employers, please give this to people.
I'm just thinking about a thing that's kind of funny, because I know that when we talk about like self-development and growth and all of these things, I know there's a lot of men out there that just they begin thinking about scented candles and listening inwards and talking about emotions and all of these things, and it kind of isn't. Like when you really do self-development, you just grow. So imagine you're in the Middle Ages and you have a sword. Your sword is whatever keeps you alive, and you have to fight your way through everything. And then your sword becomes dull. It's not sharp anymore. And you're like, nah, I don't have to sharpen my sword. My sword worked perfectly yesterday, so I'm sure it's going to work perfectly tomorrow as well. And in 2026, your mind is the sword. And you need to sharpen your mind. And you need to develop that mind. Otherwise, you're just going to die at the battlefield. And that's how we need to think about self-development. It's about sharpening the tools you already have. It's not about scented candles and singing and humming and kumbaya, my lord, and all of this bullshit. It's just about acknowledging who am I right now and where can I improve. And when we adapt that mindset into leadership trainings, we will help leaders become the leaders that can actually lead, instead of just giving them more information that can lead to burnout in the leaders, because they will feel like, I don't know how I can do this. I'm not good enough. I don't have the necessary skills. Yes, you don't. You don't have the necessary skills, but you are a great worker. But let's train you to become the great leader. But you just need to learn that your mind, it's not finished. It can always improve. And when we adapt that way of thinking, burnout it's no longer the symptom, because burnout is the symptom of an unsustainable process. And when growth is your drive, there will not be any burnout.
That was amazing. And actually, in this case, you don't even hear about burnout, because once people maintain themselves, basically, they will not burn out. They will just feel awesome. And imagine when we open up these leaders, they will lead better and their team will feel awesome at work.
Yes.
So this is another topic, that everybody start to feel better at work, because it's not just a shallow connection, then they have a proper good connection. The leader can engage them, and we are all happy then as a manager, because we know these guys will stay on the field, these guys will go home, be a better man who can find love, or be a better father who can take care of the family because he can speak. Because there's a lot of topics that can arise, like divorce, breakup at home, which can take away the energy. And if you don't have the employee who can already maintain energy in a good level, this employee can get into the burnout trap as well. So we really have to prepare our employees. It's hard to speak about employees, because I tell the guys, like, take care of each other like brothers. You know, we have the brotherhood here. this is the project that we have to succeed with and go home better and grow together at work. Because the growth doesn't really start if the leader don't have the fertilizer for this ground.
True.
We just have lots of seeds without untapped potential. So this is why we really want to get there, to be at your companies, at your projects, because if you take care of the leaders as a minimum, then you will have better results, you will have happier people, you will not see the sad faces without energy in the morning. Imagine that as a manager. You can put this in every newspaper, online, LinkedIn, everywhere, that you take care of these people to be happier and be better, and not just giving salary raise, try to satisfy them with salary raise. Give them the skills inside they need to live better. So we continue this topic in the next podcast. Stay with us and subscribe. See you soon.